Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why Paul George needs to get out of OKC as fast as he can. And I'll tell you which James, LeBron or Harden, should win MVP tonight. Speak for yourself starts now. Love it. All right, hello and welcome. Cowherd is off today, so I'm joined by Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb and a couple of Super Bowl champions, Brian Cox and Seth Joyner. All right, guys, let's start in the NFL, which according to multiple reports is planning to suspend Jameis Winston 3 games over an incident in 2016 that led to an Uber driver making allegations of sexual assault against the Buccaneers quarterback. There are a lot of conflicting reports about the details of that night, but Winston has a history of questionable behavior dating back to his time at Florida State. And guys, I think this is analogous to me to what happened to Ben Roethlisberger. In 2008, there were allegations, a civil case brought against Ben for an incident in Lake Tahoe. There were no criminal charges. In 2010, there were allegations about an incident in Georgia in a bar. There were no criminal charges. The NFL drew a line in the sand with Ben, hit him with a 6-game suspension. It got reduced to 4, and it really changed the course of Ben Roethlisberger's off-field narrative and behavior. Since 2010, he's avoided trouble. He's been nothing but a very good player for the Steelers. No more off-the-field incidents. That's why I think perhaps 3 games isn't enough here. I think the NFL should err on the side of being too harsh on Jameis Winston and sitting him down for more than perhaps 3 games. That way social media and other people won't try to extract revenge on Jameis because they felt he's been punished too little. Again, I know there have been no criminal charges in the Jameis Winston case, but I think 3 games may lead the NFL, particularly if additional information comes out, may leave the NFL with egg on its face like they had with Josh Brown, the kicker, with Ray Rice initially. I think they should err on doing too much rather than too little.
The problem is they need to slow down until they get all the facts. All these leaks about him being suspended, until you get all the facts. Like you said, you don't want to have another one of those situations where you suspend Ray Rice for 2 games, and then you see the video, and all of a sudden you got to go to a full season. I would much rather see them get all the facts, get everything straightened out, because there's conflicting reports about who was in the car and who wasn't in the car, and all these different things, all these different elements that will spell out exactly what happened. Now, if he's guilty of these, you might be right. The only thing you can do is sit him down, take away what he loves the most in order for him to wake up, because he's had way too many incidents, and he's got to understand, as the face of a franchise, he cannot continue to put himself in these compromising positions. Well,
look, I think the hard part is, and Roethlisberger also had the motorcycle thing, which, it's not his fault he got into a motorcycle accident, but you're the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why are you riding a motorcycle, especially without a helmet? And, of course, even after that, he had the 2 allegations against him. And Winston, it's not just the stuff at Florida State. It was also, the crab legs and whatever you think of that. It's a pattern of behavior here. Even the bizarre behavior when he did the eat the W thing. Like there's something that's not getting through to Jameis in terms of how we're viewing his behavior. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he hasn't been playing that well. He hasn't been playing up to his potential. And the other eerie part about the similarities is they're actually comparable as players, right? They're both big guys who hold on to the ball a little bit too long. They like to throw the ball deep downfield and have a tendency at times to force the ball into traffic. I'm with you, Jay, in that you should sit them down longer rather than earlier, if nothing else, to make a point. But when you look at the allegations, man, 5, 6 games for something that may or may not have happened, that it just feels like a long time. Like Ray Rice punched a woman.
Got it.
Right? I do think we have to be reasonable. It's a he said, she said, and there's a lot of things we don't know, and this is 2 years after the incident.
Right. There are some things that are comparable to Ben Roethlisberger, but let's not forget this happened over 2 years ago. And for this to come out now with the type of charades that are going on with the he said, she said, and not only that, I'm going to hire the same lawyer from the girl that was charged you rape or said you raped her at the University of Florida State. I'm going to get her lawyer. And so there's some stuff going on beneath the scenes that we don't know. The thing that I'd like to say in terms of being close to Ben Roethlisberger, okay, the difference is this is Jameis' first bad thing as a pro player. All the other stuff happened at Florida State. We talk about the crab legs. We talk about the standing on the table and yelling the vulgarities. We talk about the other girl coming out. And then we talk about this incident. You know, to me, the parents are the big issue. You don't see the parents in any of this stuff. You don't see them making any conversation. Where's the dad? Where's the mom? You know, at the draft day, you saw the dad and the mom draped around Jameis, but they've kind of been unseen and unheard when this stuff, you know, kind of comes to the forefront. For me, I'd like to see the parents take on more of a thing. We're looking at Jameis at 23. Ben Roethlisberger was 27, 28. Much different age, you know, the maturity process. Jameis has been to look at to say, this is who I can become if I can get on the straight.
And I get your point about the parents, but you know just as well as I know, you know, the elation of being drafted in the NFL, you understand what happens in that household when you come from a less than affluent household.
You're the breadwinner.
All of a sudden, he becomes his dad's brother, his mom's husband, his brothers and sisters' father, okay? So no matter what the circumstances are, the parents aren't going to come forth and say or do anything to bite the hand that feeds them. So listen, if he wasn't raised right from the beginning, it's not going to. That's not.
You don't know that.
Hold on,
but I'm just
Seth. I will say, because I think you've made some very real points, and so did you, Brian. I will say this: my mother bites my hand constantly, and trust me, I feed her well,
right.
Very well. She bites my hand
because she
constantly.
raised you right.
No, I get it, and so I think that's Brian's point too. That a lot of times we're sitting back and we're demonizing the commissioner, Roger Goodell. Why is he coming down? Why is he coming down? And a lot of times it's because the family or the parents have let someone down. They're not coming down, and I find that's an interesting point. The guy, he's 24 years old. He's been having these incidents forever, and I haven't seen the parents step in here. And so now here he is at the mercy of Roger Goodell and the court of public opinion, and it's not going to treat him well.
Okay, well, first, there's two parts to it. I understand parents and how you're brought up. I will say that everyone who's followed Jameis back to Florida State, or even if you watch Hard Knocks, and I know it's a TV show, okay, in many ways he appears to be exactly what you want as leader of men. On the other hand, he has not been held responsible for however he behaves in public. And I think what Jason's getting at is like, hey, dude, at some point you got to grow up. Okay, 23 years old, and I know his mom and dad need to be involved, but this is in Scottsdale. This isn't at home. Hey, you got to be a grown-up. You're the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and no one's ever held him accountable. Whatever happened with the crab legs, it's very possible that was a place that a lot of dudes at Florida State used to go in and get stuff and not have to pay for it. That's
not the quarterback.
My mama used to always say, the way you act in this house is the way you act out in the street. So you're going to act right in here.
So look, it's possible, you know, he could get a pass having lived in the real world of college sports to where we did get things for free. On the other hand, remember when he was suspended, but he still came out and he was throwing with the team? Like, Jimbo Fisher never held him accountable. The Buccaneers have never held him accountable. And at some point, he's got to get that lesson. And if not now, when? Like, how bad does it have to get? My problem with it is, I'm also with you guys in that it seems to be really fuzzy details. The 2 years removed. And one of the guys who's saying that he wasn't in the car is locked up for 15 years for rape. So it's really hard to believe he's a credible witness.
Right. I'm with you on the stage that he has to grow up and he has to become a man. But at 23, what did you know and what did you do? Like if I was in college in a time with Instagram and Facebook, I'd be in prison. Because some of the stuff I did that was just outright silly and arrogant and being funny with a bunch of guys living like locker room.
Brian, he was already accused of rape. Like I understand.
You said accused.
No, listen, it's hard because we have to assume that he did not, because 3 times essentially he was charged for it, even in Title IX court at Florida State, and nothing stuck to him. So I'm with you that he was just accused. My point is, if that's not a come to Jesus moment, that's not a wake up that things can go really, even if you did nothing wrong. I understand that we all would have gotten in trouble for silliness in college or silliness at 23, but it should be different for him considering what he was potentially facing at Florida State, and you think he would have matured by now.
All right, we got to move. All right, back in April, Tampa Bay picked up the 5th-year option on Winston's contract, and according to ESPN, the team's ownership is standing behind their quarterback until the NFL concludes its investigation and comes to a decision about his fate. Depending on how this all plays out, given Jameis's history, I think the Buccaneers should consider cutting ties with him for a lot of the reasons we're talking about here in terms of this dude doesn't seem to be getting the message. And the only thing that stops me from saying they should cut ties with him is Ben Roethlisberger. Is that Ben Roethlisberger went through the exact same issues at 27, 28 years old that Jameis is going through right now at 23 and 24. And it seems sitting Ben Roethlisberger down and someone in the Steelers providing the help that he needed seems to have put Ben on a different path. This is Jameis's last shot here. If this doesn't wake him up, nothing will, because I sit here and just struggle with his decision-making. How are you out partying with Brandon Banks, who at the time was awaiting to be tried on sexual battery and assault charges? How were y'all partying together in Scottsdale at any point that you're even in the mix with this guy? He's not a Florida State teammate. I don't know where they know each other from. Jameis's decision-making just seems very shoddy, and if the Buccaneers did cut ties with him, I wouldn't blame him.
The only support that I'm going to give to what you're saying is the fact that it was 2 years later, 2 years ago, like Brian said. Now, there's a lot of transformation that can happen in 2 years. You know, we're talking about something that we're 2 years removed from like it was yesterday, and that's just not the case. Should they move on from him? I want you to think about, you know, you've got a head coach down there that's hanging. He's on the hot seat.
Sure.
Okay? The organization just made massive changes from a personnel standpoint, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, they've been loaded for the last year and a half. Now, you're going to tell me you're going to turn that over to Ryan Fitzpatrick? You're going to go and draft another quarterback next year and turn supposedly.
It's a very difficult football decision. You're absolutely right. But there are other factors beyond football in terms of if Jameis Winston has another mishap, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be trashed, ownership will be trashed, general managers, executives will be trashed, the head coach. All hell will break loose on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if the next mistake Jameis Winston makes.
If they don't win in the next year to 2 years, all hell's going to break loose, okay? So I feel like the organization
got to protect its image, man.
Listen, I feel like if Jameis, if he has another hiccup, then everybody who goes to bat for him, they're gone anyway. If they don't win, they're gone anyway, okay? So the organization has got $20 million locked into this kid. Is guaranteed money next year if they pick up when they pick up.
But they consider.
But let me interject here. In the NFL, it's about wins and losses. Nothing else really matters. So to have a quarterback that's a character that is not liked or has been in trouble, how many times is he going to get in trouble before we say that's his character? At some point, they have to get their support staff together and get this kid on the right path. They got the blueprint in Roethlisberger in front of them. But this guy is, having coached in that division in Atlanta, this guy is the best competitor. He's a really good leader. The game's on the line. He wants the ball in his hand. There is no way in the world that Tampa Bay doesn't sign him to a new contract because you got a guy that can lead you to the promised land. Now, having said that, I want to make sure in no way, shape, or form people are saying that I'm suggesting that you should keep a guy that's done something inappropriately to a woman. I'm not saying that. I'm talking purely from a football standpoint on how you get a guy and you say, we haven't won around here for a long time, who can lead us to a championship? Jameis Winston can lead you to that. So if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm getting my support staff together and say it's time for you guys to earn your money. This guy's going to be here and you're going to make him the person that we want to see off the field and that people can be proud of from this area. That's what I'm doing if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Here's the one problem that we haven't yet addressed is that he wasn't good last year. And in several moments to which you wanted, all right, this is the year to which Jameis Winston becomes what we thought he could be out of Florida State. So look, he was, and then you bring in the idea, if you're pot committed with him, you go to bat for a guy who, if he is suspended, the NFL is saying, we believe he lied. Okay, he lied to his bosses. So I'm with you, Jason. I consider it. I don't, Okay, I give a guy a lot of rope, and he may hang himself. He may hang all of us with it.
Right.
But I do think you consider it, one, hasn't been as good as you would have wanted, and two, and maybe most importantly, if the NFL believes it's more, more probable than not, that they believe he lied in the investigation, and he got Ronald Darby to lie for him in the investigation. That's what they're saying. They're saying, like, look, the phone evidence, the electronic evidence doesn't match up with what you're saying that you weren't in the car by yourself. If that's accurate, now you have a guy who isn't, won't tell the truth, isn't playing up to snuff, and isn't getting the message. I consider it. I keep him, but I consider
Brian,
it.
I want get that video of him melting down at the end of the final regular season game. Because I really, Brian, I want your reaction to this video of the meltdown at the end of this game. Because everybody's talking about what a great leader Jameis is. Right. He melted down and made a fool out of himself in the final game of the year. They basically had to get tossed out of the game. He comes onto the field. How is that consistent with the leader that you see?
How's Tom Brady cussing Josh McDaniels out on the sideline consistent with the leadership that we see? It's no different. We give Tom Brady a pass for cussing.
Brian,
it's not different.
Yes, it is.
It's not different. The guy's competitive, and what did he do? He went up to the official after the game and apologized. He apologized in the press conference. I can't do this. My emotions got the best of me. But when Tom Brady stands on the sideline and cuts Josh McDaniels out, we give him a pass and say that's okay. Is that all right?
He just shoved a staff member. He's
Sheldon
going on to the Look, and trust me, I watched this video and watched the game and came away like, damn, this dude really cares. Right. And it made me more invested in believing that he does have a chance to be great. But when you put the whole thing in context, it's just more bad decision-making from Jameis Winston.
Two things. One, I would argue the fact that he played poorly last year. Their defense was at an all-time worst. It was one of the worst in the history of the game. They were decimated on defense. He didn't play as well as he should. But when you talk about this draft, when you talk about him being one of the great young stars of the NFL, he's going to be that. I was in that division. We played against him 6 times when I was in Atlanta. I think we went 4-2 or 3-3 or something. The guy has all the stuff. The players believe in him when he's in the locker room. They believe him when he walks into the huddle. This guy has
59 turnovers in 45 games.
Nice, fine. We can also say the same thing about Steve Young. Everybody forget about what he was at Tampa Bay, but yet he's Hall of Famer. Nobody talks about it. When he was
Bill
at Tampa
Walsh isn't walking through that door.
Yeah, they don't have to. At the same time, I would just say
Jerry Rice isn't playing in Tampa.
I would just say this. The guy's young. The guy deserves a second chance. I'm not making any mistakes for all the things that he's had in his past. But everybody has a past. And so it's up to us, instead of ostracizing the guy, because I've been in this position many a times, instead of ostracizing him, let's embrace him and say, hey, man, you got to do better. You're going to do better. Somebody has to be close enough to him that can get to him to speak that language to him to slow him down. For me, it was Joe Green. When Joe Green started talking to me, the world started making sense. When I went to New York and Bill Parcells started talking to me, the world started to make sense. When you know better, you do better, as has been said. He doesn't know better yet. Some of the stuff that he's done, alcohol was involved. Some of that stuff, we don't know all the circumstances surrounding this thing. But if I'm your friend and I'm out with you, you're not putting me in Uber and sending me away. We're all going home together. We came together, we're leaving together. That could have possibly stopped this incident from happening if somebody would have stepped up in that situation and said that. But for me, if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm signing this kid because from what I've seen in the 3 years as a player, if they fix his surrounding cast a little bit and fix the defense, this is a Super Bowl contending team. And we all know the NFL does not turn their back on people that can help win.
At Buffalo Wild Wings, we'll admit that we often go overboard with our limited time offerings. We just can't help ourselves. Take our new signature sampler. For $15, you get wings and 3 shareable options like fried pickles or cheese curds. Then there's our aptly named over-the-top nachos, a literal mountain of crispy tortilla chips loaded with your choice of pulled pork or honey barbecue grilled chicken, corn, jalapenos, and more. Then top it all off with our new platinum margarita. Go overboard with us today at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Available for a limited time while supplies last. Please drink responsibly. All right, welcome back. Brian Cox and Seth Joyner are back. Let's move to the NFL, where Chiefs offensive lineman Laurent Duvernay-Tardif just did something incredible, graduating from medical school after taking classes in the offseason for the last several years. Even still, the NFL is refusing to allow the first player ever / doctor football player to put MD on the back of his jersey, which LDT, as I'm calling him, requested earlier this year. This is somewhat lighthearted, but there's some truth in it. I would let guys have fun on the back of their jerseys before I would let them do all the gyrations and touchdown celebrations. I would rather see guys with nicknames on the back of their jersey or whatever on the back of their jerseys. As long as it doesn't get political and divisive, you should damn near let people put whatever they want on the back of their jersey. I'd rather do that than to see Antonio Brown gyrating on the field. And so I don't get what the NFL's thinking here. The guy wants to put MD on the back of his jersey. He's earned it. Why be a stickler on this?
Did you see the back of his jersey? He ain't got no more room for nothing on the back of that jersey, man. No, I mean, just jokingly, I can see both sides. I mean, it's a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment to be able to finish to get your medical degree while you're playing professional football. Some people can't even do one or the other, you know. So I get him wanting to have it, but I can also see the NFL side of this.
Which is?
Because where do you draw the line? I mean, do you want this to turn into the XFL back of jerseys all over again?
Why not?
Well, I would just take this side. I'm on the side of the NFL right now. And for me,
I can't believe this.
For me, it's not a suffix. It's not. He's not a senior or a junior. Or they don't have MD as a suffix.
I don't like those either, by the way.
For me, well, I like it because my son's birthday today. He's a Carolina Panther, so he got Cox Jr. on his jersey. but for me, MD is something that you accomplish. Great accomplishment. Great. But that's not your name. That's who you are. You're a medical doctor now. You can say that. And that's something to be very, very proud of, but that's not your name.
I'm blown away that both of y'all somehow see any wisdom in what the NFL is doing.
I'm straddling the fence.
Not me. I'm straight on the NFL
He's
side.
on the other side. I'm straddling the fence.
This is why they call it the no fun league.
But you have to have
celebrations. No celebrations is no fun to me. I mean, listen,
I want to gyrate.
As hard as you work.
I scored a touchdown. I want to gyrate.
As hard as you work in the game, not to be able to allow your emotions to pour out when you do something great.
The only way to pour out your emotions is to gyrate the way Antonio Brown does.
So let me ask you a question.
That's orchestrated and calculated.
Did you have a problem with Billy White Shoes Johnson?
No, because that was fun, and he was the only one doing it. Now everybody's doing it. And Billy White Shoes Johnson wasn't some sexual gyration.
So move forward a generation and realize that these kids they're not wired like we are. Like now, if somebody did that little hip gyration when we were playing, they was going to pay for it. You understand what I'm saying? But this is a different generation, man. It's a different generation.
It's like I love the icky shuffle. But again, all those things are harmless. But to me, the easy solution for the NFL, players want a platform, and we can't do this, we can't do that. You'd satisfy a lot of players if they could put Pookie on the back of their jersey.
No, I don't want to play against Pookie.
Or Ray on the back of his jersey.
No. So what is the announcer's supposed Pookie on the tackle?
No, you call him by his real name. No one cares what's on the back of the name. It'll just be fun.
If I'm doing the game and he got Pookie on the back of his jersey, I'm calling him Pookie.
Hi, I'm Alexi Lawless. I used to play soccer back in the 1900s for the U.S. Now you can find me talking about soccer this summer during the World Cup on Fox. Now through July 15th, you can get daily FIFA World Cup updates from me through your Alexa-enabled device. Just say, Alexa, play the Fox Sports Flash Briefing, and you'll get the latest tournament news straight from Russia. Alexa and Alexi. Now that's a winning team. Don't forget to watch the 2018 FIFA World Cup all tournament long live on Fox and FS1.
All right, welcome back to the show. Doug Gottlieb is back. We're joined now by NBA insider Rick Bucher and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Oklahoma City. where Carmelo Anthony surprised nobody by opting into the final year of his contract with a salary just shy of $28 million. Melo took to Instagram to gloat a little, posting a pic of himself in Germany with the caption, "Oh, you mad, huh?" It's possible OKC could still buy out Carmelo, but if he's with the team next season, I think Paul George is making a hell of a mistake here, sticking with OKC. If Carmelo signing or taking that $28 million is a guarantee, they're not going to be any good. They won't win in the postseason. And what's the point of sticking in OKC for another year with the OKC mess? We saw it last year. Why do it again? Why not just get the hell out of there and find out where LeBron is going and meet LeBron in that city?
I want to disagree with you. I really do. Because I want to believe that Carmelo Anthony's smart enough to know if he would sacrifice his ego and come off the bench, they could find mismatches for him, and he could still give you 18 a game and fit into the right matchups. I want to believe that. The problem is, I read the Instagram post, and he's basically saying, I'm mellow, it's got me this far, and I'll ride this thing into the sunset. He ain't coming off the bench, he's not playing any defense, he's washed as a star, and he's the only one that apparently doesn't have the wherewithal to know it. I completely agree with you. Get the hell out of Oklahoma City. That is a sinking ship that was built with tons of young talent and depth, and now they are front-loaded with stars that don't fit together and lost in the first round.
Well, let's face it, they put it together in order to get Russell Westbrook to sign the extension. So once they did that, mission accomplished. Now, there's a simple question that Paul George has to ask himself in this. Are they better with Carmelo Anthony, or are they worse? His signing makes them better. If he leaves, they don't have an option to get better. They don't have cap room to change that team. And you guys may look at Carmelo and
you say with Carmelo they're better.
Without question. Are you saying you take Carmelo Anthony off that team and you leave it as is? That is a better team without
Addition
Carmelo
by subtraction,
Anthony.
right.
No chance. No chance.
Why?
No chance.
Did you watch him play this year?
Absolutely, I watched
Who's
him play
guard?
that first year. They need to convince him that
His
he needs to
shot's
play
gonna get
power
better.
forward. Look, he's averaging 16. Where are you going to get that? You can look at what Carmelo has been.
How much has he given
and
up?
what you want him to be.
How much has he given up? Rick,
What do you mean?
how many teams does he have to go through? How many teams does he have to go through in New York where it's the coach's problem, the general manager's problem, it's this guy's problem, it's that guy's
There is the other end
problem?
of the floor is what Doug is talking about.
This was a playoff team, right?
Yes, but it was a playoff team before he got there. They improved by one game.
Okay, but we're not
Adding
looking
Paul
at...
George and Carmelo Anthony, they improved by one game.
Again,
they got worse with better players.
Again, you take him off of that team, they're not a better team. And Paul George views it that way. You two may look at it and say, he's not the player he's always been.
That's almost like saying, taking me off the scale and the scale doesn't get lighter. I mean, literally, that's what that sounds like.
So, Rick, here's the big issue with Paul George. He has to decide, do I want to play with a selfish player, Russell Westbrook, for the next 4 or 5 years?
Okay, hold on a second.
No, wait. Or do you want to play with the selfless LeBron James, who averaged 9 assists per game, carried a pretty inferior Cavs squad to the finals? And listen, if you want to argue, hey, he'll make $45 million more staying in OKC, that's great, because you're going to have a lot of extra summer vacation time when you're out in the first round of the playoffs every year, Rick.
Paul George does not look at him that way. Russell Westbrook does not look at that way. I get that there are critics on the outside that look at Melo and say he is this. Paul George doesn't view it that way. Let's take the flip side.
How does Rick Bucher see it?
I have hope still that Carmelo Anthony will understand.
What is he, 42?
No, listen,
and he's going to change?
That's the thing, though, Rick. I wanted to disagree with Jason. Right. I wanted to see an Instagram post from Germany going like, so happy to be back. PG, come back. Let's go and win 60 games.
Well, he's not going to change his personality.
Because he's not going to change who he is.
He's not going to change the way he plays on the court.
He's not coming off the bench. He's not changing roles. He's not doing anything other than what he's done to this point, which has made him a lot of money, but has exactly zero in terms of winning in the postseason.
Regardless of any of that, if you take him away, look at the message that you're sending Paul George. If Carmelo Anthony says, I don't care about $28 million, I know I can't get that on the open market. I want out of Oklahoma City. I am out of here. What message does that send Paul George about Oklahoma City and that team?
What is the message? Are you talking about, look, they were sending the messages. They wanted him gone. There's a reason the stories were leaked that he might opt out. That was from Oklahoma City's management.
Understood. Look, among all the guys that are at this table right now, I was the one guy who was there during their playoff round against Utah. I was in that locker room. I talked to Paul George. I talked to Carmelo Anthony. I saw the dynamic. You guys might not like Carmelo Anthony, and you might not like him in that battle. No, but that makes a difference.
I don't know.
If Paul George wants to play with Carmelo Anthony, then Carmelo Anthony staying in Oklahoma City is a plus. And it doesn't matter what the view on the outside is.
Okay, but Rick, I love your point that you were there and you understand the dynamics better than we do. I'm going to accept that. I just don't think there's a logical argument to be made that Carmelo makes them better and they would not potentially have more upside if Carmelo's not there. Maybe Russell Westbrook adjusts, Paul George adjusts, Steven Adams plays a bigger role. Other pieces around them make up for the fact that Carmelo's atrocious on the defensive end, and on the offensive end, he just wants to stand around, and until he catches the ball, the offense really hasn't started.
You are asking Carmelo Anthony to make a transformation here.
Yeah.
He's playing a different position. He's playing a different role. I am going to give him more than this past year in Oklahoma City.
He's 35 or 36.
To be able to do
Carmelo and Westbrook or LeBron. I mean, that's what you're looking at?
Kawhi Leonard's future is still up in the air since demanding a trade a couple of weeks ago. Kawhi and Greg Popovich have been at odds for months, and now a high-profile former Spur, Bruce Bowen, is siding with Pop, saying that Kawhi has done nothing but make excuses all season.
First, it was, well, I was misdiagnosed. Look here, you got $18 million this year, and you think that they're trying to rush you? You didn't play, for the most part, a full season this year, and you're the go-to guy. You're the franchise, and you want to say that they didn't have your best interest at heart? Are you kidding me? Well, I think he's getting bad advice. I think what you're starting to see now is, an individual given a certain amount of advice, and it's not the right advice. Here it is. You were protected in San Antonio. You were able to come up during a time where you still could lean on Tim, Tony, and Manu. Not one time has Kawhi come out and said anything to the effect of, you know what, hey, I really enjoy being in San Antonio, or I can't stand what's going on here in San Antonio. Not one time has he said anything.
Listen, I don't disagree with anything Bruce Bowen just said. I just don't get why he's saying it. He works for the Clippers television broadcast, and he's a former San Antonio Spur and connected to that organization. How are the Clippers or Spurs helped in any way by those comments? I can't disagree with what he said, but I just don't understand. Where's his loyalties? The Clippers would love to have a shot at Kawhi, and the Spurs would love to have a shot at keeping Kawhi. And this dude just threw gasoline on everybody. And a match.
I agree, but this is what all of the old Spurs are doing, right? That's what, Tony Parker saying, I had the same injury, it was 100 times worse, and I'm back playing.
Agreed.
It's like they all got together and like, F this dude. He's not a Spur. He doesn't appreciate it. We could have won another. I think, I truly believe this, and Rick, you can speak to this.
Yeah.
I think most guys in the league thought you could get the Warriors this year, that their bench wasn't as good, that though the big three had learned to play together, Draymond couldn't make a shot, whether it was his shoulder or his head or maybe a combination of the two, and they didn't really have a fifth great player, especially when Iguodala got hurt. And even when he was hurt, that was not the team that won 73 or the team that ran through the playoffs last year. And I think they thought, we got a shot. LaMarcus has finally bought in. If he's right, we got a shot. Houston could have beaten them had Chris Paul been healthy. And I think they're ticked that they had one last shot, and here's a guy that had a little thigh problem that Tony Parker came through. The problem is, why is he saying it? And forget about the Clippers. If you really are a loyal San Antonio Spur, right? If you cut him open and he bleeds black and silver, this is not the message that's working. It didn't work all year. It's not going to work now.
Yeah, but the truth is, this is not about trying to salvage this relationship between Kawhi Leonard and the San Antonio Spurs. That ship has sailed. There's no getting him back in the camp. From what I've been told, this is about Kawhi Leonard just doesn't want to play for Greg Popovich anymore. It was okay playing for Pop and doing the San Antonio Spur way when you're winning championships. He hasn't won a championship since 2014. That's 4 long years doing it the San Antonio way. My only issue with Kawhi is just tell us. Tell us why you're leaving.
I agree with Bowen.
Don't tell us it's like, well, you know, I don't trust the franchise anymore because of how the injury was handled, and I want to go to L.A. Okay, wait. What is it? You want to go to L.A. or you don't trust the franchise anymore? Because if you don't trust the franchise anymore, then you want to go someplace where you can win and where you're comfortable, and you're not targeting a destination. He wants to ultimately go to L.A. because that's where he wants to live. That's where he wants to play. And if you're going to, look, if I'm not going to win championships, I might as well live and play where I want to live and play. And San Antonio just isn't it.
So Popovich, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and now Bruce Bowen, all taking shots at Kawhi Leonard. Mm-hmm. You guys know Bruce Bowen's number was retired by the Spurs. Okay? Mm-hmm. He was made by Popovich. Popovich made Bruce Bowen who he is. He's on TV today because of Greg Popovich. Turned him into an all-defensive player. He was a 5-time first-team all-defensive player. And I'm not surprised at all. This is how the Spurs operate. Oh, you going to take shots at us? We're like the mafia family. You're going to come after us, Kawhi? You want to run out of town? Well, you're going to have to deal with this. You're going to have to deal with the bad-mouthing in the press.
You know what? We should acknowledge the fact that the Iron Dome in San Antonio has been pierced. The fact that we're talking about them in the same way we're talking about the New England Patriots and the problems that they have, right? And so all of the Spurs are getting together to go up there and patch that dome and go, it's not the organization, it's not San Antonio, it's that guy.
I also think, and I'm sorry we got to go here, Doug, but that Bruce Bowen is saying this because I think he feels like Kawhi is a bit Pop-made, and that when he goes someplace else, he won't be as good without the Pop system. I believe that's what Popovich believes. I think Bruce Bowen and these guys are trying to shake Kawhi to say, you think the grass is green, but wait till you get out of Pop's system and find out what the NBA is like. You won't be the same player.
Hi, I'm Alexi Lawless. I used to play soccer back in the 1900s for the U.S. Now you can find me talking about soccer this summer during the World Cup on Fox. Now through July 15th, you can get daily FIFA World Cup updates from me through your Alexa-enabled device. Just say, Alexa, play the Fox Sports Flash Briefing, and you'll get the latest tournament news straight from Russia. Alexa and Alexi. Now that's a winning team. Don't forget to watch the 2018 FIFA World Cup all tournament long live on Fox and FS1.
All right, welcome back. I'm joined now by Fox Radio host Doug Gottlieb, NBA champion Dante Jones, and the founder of the big league, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the NBA, where James Harden did what everyone expected last night, beating out LeBron James for the MVP at the NBA Awards. Afterward, amid lots of speculation that LeBron could be joining him in Houston, Harden was asked how the Rockets can improve next year, but wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for LeBron.
We were a half away from the finals, so I don't think there's a piece that we need to bring in or to take away. We're great with what we have, from top to bottom, from front office to coaching staff to players, personnel. So our main focus is just getting better, getting healthier, and doing what we do. You got to realize, like, you know, this is Chris and PJ and Luke and all our new guys their first year, you know, and so, and look where we got to. Imagine a little bit more time together and get pretty scary.
What the hell is he wearing? That would be my first question.
How many Dalmatians were killed to have that jacket?
I just don't think this is the right attitude. You saw Golden State lose a championship and go out and get the second best player in the world. You're looking at Philadelphia doing Embiid, Ben Simmons doing anything they can to get LeBron James. I don't. It sounds good. I guess it sounds tough in the locker room, but it's not the right attitude.
I disagree. If they have Chris Paul, do they win Game 7?
No, I don't. I think that whole thing. No, I think Golden State was in control of that series, start to finish. It got a little hairy, but no, I don't.
I mean, you do have kind of a predetermined bias against Houston, which I generally do as well. But I will tell you that they were built specifically to beat Golden State, and they nearly did it. And I actually think selling it as twofold. One, if I say I want LeBron, that sells out that we have to get rid of everybody else in the locker room. And two, and maybe this is kind of most important to me, like the makeup of how they are built is around James Harden, around Chris Paul, then space out with all those shooters, hybrid players. I think that's the way of the future. I actually agree with him. I told you this yesterday. I don't love watching James Harden play. It's not an enjoyable experience. I don't love the find a mismatch, then pound the hell out of the basketball, drive in, try and draw a foul, flop, the lack of defense. I don't love it. But it's really effective with the way the NBA is played and officiated, so much so they have Chris Paul. It's probably a completely different story today as far as who's an NBA champion.
I totally agree with James Harden because I think they were the better team in that series. Chris Paul going down, if Chris Paul was healthy, they would have pulled that series out. I think a year of experience playing together is going to help them. So I like that attitude of Courtney, just going with my troops and getting better.
I'm not playing hard to, I don't play hard to get.
And getting better.
I'm not playing hard to get.
And sometimes more is not enough.
I don't know how you guys can disagree with Whitlock here. I mean, who goes in and says, we don't want the best player in the world on our team? I mean, this is a team. You guys are making it sound like it was close with the Warriors. I thought they folded and choked in the last 2 games. I know they didn't have Chris Paul. Did Golden State have Iguodala?
I know they didn't have Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
And guess what? The Warriors didn't have Iguodala, the Finals MVP.
Wait. Let's.
How can you not want LeBron?
Let's have an honest conversation. Hold on. Let's have an honest conversation. Okay. First of all, there's a lot that goes with LeBron. Okay. Not just LeBron, the player, all the off the court stuff. Just to get LeBron, what has to happen to the rest of their roster?
They got to make some.
Gone.
Yeah?
Gone. P.J. Tucker, gone. Trevor Ariza, gone. Everybody gone.
And you need,
maybe Clint Capella's gone.
Have you guys forgotten who Chris Paul's best friend is? Have you forgot that Daryl Morey said this team was obsessed with the Warriors? You don't think Chris Paul would chase his best buddy, LeBron James?
Understand that dynamic of a team. The Warriors are not a collection of just great players. They're a team that works well together.
Yes.
So just because you add talent does not mean that the talent is going to work well together. Chris Paul, LeBron James, and James Harden may not work together. But that over on the other side, that Golden State team, they sacrifice for each other. Just because they can score and they're talented, it does not mean that a team is going to work.
I agree with y'all in terms of 3 ball-dominant players would be a real challenge. But I would take on that challenge. To get LeBron James, I would take on that challenge and try to make it work. It might be a hot mess all during the regular season. But come playoff time, I think LeBron, Chris Paul, and maybe James Harden, they would figure it out.
It's possible. I also think there's a possibility he already knows what the answer is in terms of Houston, right? Like,
oh yeah,
right. He ain't coming. I'm not gonna opine for some dude that's not coming, and then go back and face my boys. I mean, like, look, all those guys, some of whom might be gone from Houston, were there to support him last night. Definitely. I think it's probably the least he can do to support him in changing.
Well, whether Harden recruits him or not, there is still a chance LeBron ends up staying in Cleveland, which, according to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, some people within the Cavs organization seem to think is getting more likely. McMenamin also adds that LeBron signing another short-term deal to stay with the Cavs might actually suit his personality, explaining, quote, some might say that would mean the circus following James' decision for another 12 months, but when has James shied away from the spotlight? As former Cavs general manager David Griffin once put it, James thrives in chaos. I actually think, I'm not sure what LeBron's going to do, but I would have more respect for him if he stays in Cleveland. And it's not that I don't have respect for him. My respect for him would be enhanced if he stayed in Cleveland, made it work there, maybe get a Kemba Walker, work out things with Dan Gilbert, continue your dominance in the East. Don't jump from city to city to city. My respect for LeBron would be enhanced if he stayed.
But all of this could have been avoided if he wanted to stay, right? It would be obvious that he didn't really want to stay. If he wanted to stay, last year they could have had Paul George. All he had to say was, Paul George comes, I'm staying. Staying. Sign as long as you want, I'm staying here. But he hasn't. So it would be backpedaling a little bit. It would be groveling. It would be admitting that there is no...
You would lose respect for him if he stayed.
I think it would depend upon what he said, why he said he was staying. If he was honest about, hey, look, I thought about maybe the grass is green on the other side, then I realized even with all the tumultuous journey we went on last year, we still got to the NBA Finals. I realized this is the best place for me. I would not gain respect for a guy, but I wouldn't lose respect for him either. It's kind of more of a neutral stance.
I wouldn't lose respect for him if he left Cleveland. I think my respect lies...
If he stayed, would it enhance your respect?
It would not enhance my respect because the organizations have the job to do in building a team. I think all dynasties and all teams that have success in winning championships had great players, but had great organizations and great coaching. I think the organization has the responsibility to put the team around him. So if I just say I'm staying and you don't add any pieces to me, you affect my legacy.
They rebuilt the team midstream for the guy.
They rebuilt that team midstream for their organization, for the future of their organization going down the line. It wasn't for LeBron James.
They hurt their future.
Because there was places where you could have traded that pick to build for right now and win a championship to keep him. You just chose to build to be proactive for your future as well and try to be as good as you can.
In fairness, okay, yes, they could have traded that pick. But the contracts they absorbed, it's the highest overall salaries in the NBA. They took on Jordan Clarkson's deal. They took on...
Which is pennies?
Huh?
Which is pennies?
No,
you
it's
took
not.
on George Hill's deal, which
George
is
Hill,
20
excuse me.
Yeah, you took his deal on, which is $19 million for next year and a $1 million clause for the year after that. You don't have any long-term contracts that you're faced with that you don't have any cap flexibility. So bringing those contracts were for their future. Jordan Clarkson's contract was for their future, a young talent on a sizable contract. George Hill had one more year after that. They didn't add anything that was going to hamper them in their future going forward.
That's not true. Isaiah Thomas was coming off the board as a contract. Instead, they took on another year of George Hill.
But when it comes to respect for LeBron, I gained respect when he went back to Cleveland and won the title. That's what he said he was going to do. Mission accomplished.
Right.
I'd gain more respect for him if he left and built a team that took down the Warriors. The best dynasty since Jordan's Bulls. He can pull that off, I'll gain respect. But staying in Cleveland just to stay and be like a Cleveland guy, I don't see it.
Those two scenarios are worth respect. Building something, not jumping on another team where they're already formulated, but building another team or staying in Cleveland, you can find respect in both sides.
Look, they should have won game one. This was not, it turned into a lopsided series, but to me, it was closer than people realized.
Agreed.
They took a gut punch in game one that they couldn't recover from. J.R. Smith jacked the entire series. I don't think it's unreasonable to think you add a Kemba Walker to this roster and game one next year goes their way and maybe the series goes, they can get into a 7-game series with Golden State, and I'd love to see them in a 7-game series with Golden State because I don't think Golden State's man enough for that LeBron James.
Well, they're not getting there next year, Jason. The Boston Celtics are a far better team. Boston Celtics didn't have their two best players, took them to Game 7, missed all those threes, were up 12 in the second quarter, and couldn't close the deal. So I don't disagree with you.
He's made it 8 straight years.
I know he has, but he has not faced a check.
I mean, it's 8 straight. I got to see it.
We don't know the Celtics are.
He barely got by your Pacers.
I got to see it to believe it. I do something 8 times in a row. Don't doubt me on number 9.
It does make you wonder why not, why leave?
All right, welcome back. We brought Brian Cox out of the penalty box and back onto the show. He's joined by Doug Gottlieb and Dante Jones. All right, let's return to the NBA awards, where the Big O, Oscar Robertson, was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award last night. Aside from his on-court exploits, Robertson was a part of a generation of socially active players in the 1960s and has some strong words when asked about the new wave of socially conscious players.
These people are young people who have families. They see some injustice in the streets and wherever it might be. It might be almost anywhere. And they're stepping out. But I think but the only thing that really bothers me is that where are the white athletes when this was happening? I mean, it's just not a black athlete problem when you see just injustice in the world. I mean, it's all around you, and just because LeBron steps out, I'm glad he does. I hope some other players, because this is what they believe. It's not. I mean, what do you want players to do? You know, shut up and dribble. You know, I think there's time for them to say what they want to say about life, say about politics and about things in the street and whatnot, about education, which a lot of the players are doing. They're donating their monies back into different causes and whatnot.
Love Big O. He's from Indianapolis, from Crispus Attucks High School. Great guy. I think he's a little bit off here. I think that there are ways beyond complaining to get involved. And so to suggest that white players aren't involved when J.J. Watt, there's a hurricane in the Houston area that impacts him, he raised $37 million, that's a way of being socially active. And so to ask white people to take on our burdens or our perceived burdens, to ask them to get involved the way that we get involved, I think is inappropriate. people have to do what's authentic to them, not what is authentic to me or Oscar Robertson or someone else.
It's the idea that, if being told you have to stand for the flag is forced patriotism, this is forced activism, right? That's what you're saying. Which,
a little bit.
This should not be roll call. And I wouldn't do the J.J. Watt, because who's not going to support hurricane victims? It's more Chris Long, right? Like, look, Chris Long gives away his entire salary, and yet he doesn't. We're talking about LeBron James.
Love Chris Long. Comes from a very wealthy family.
No,
it wasn't the hugest sacrifice. I love Chris Long.
Yes,
I love Howie. That's not a criticism.
Yes, but we would all agree, though, when you stand in the NFL with teammates who are protesting, it's much more divisive than when J.J. Watt raises money for hurricane victims. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a little bit more divisive, absolutely.
But
there's no divisiveness to what J.J. Watt is doing. And again, I'm a part of the belief that you're going to win with positive energy and positive action more than complaints.
Well, I'm with Doug a little bit on the J.J. Watt thing. That's something that was in total. Of course, I live in Houston. I was a part of the hurricane. He did it for the entire community. We're talking about, it's a little bit different. We're talking about white people stepping up for a cause, a black cause. And I think it goes back to just straight morality. Who are you as a person? If we would have had white athletes in the 50 and 60 like Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Bob Cousy, some of the great white players, Sandy Koufax at that time in different sports, stand up, we'd be in a better place from a race standpoint today, I think.
Brian, I just want to be careful about that people that don't support a particular cause, now they're immoral or their moral character is lacking.
That's really unfair. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying today is a moral issue. Like, for instance, the Me Too movement. There have been a lot of white men and black men that stepped out for the Me Too movement to say, hey, there's something wrong with this. We need to call order. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, if we would have had the same consciousness in the 50s and 60s, we'd be furthermore in the race debate today as we sit. And when you call to it now, you say we got Chris Long, we got Steve Kerr, we got Greg Popovich that stand up and stand out for black people because right is right, wrong is wrong. And all I'm saying is, and I think to Oscar Robertson's point, we need more people to stand up to say, from a moral standpoint, hey, that's not right. We need to do better. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that.
And Doctor, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you go. But some people's morality might compel them to say, hey, the Michael Brown situation in Ferguson, you all making him a hero and saying he's a victim, their morality might say that's inappropriate and wrong. He got into a confrontation with a policeman, touched his gun, and had an incident at a convenience store earlier. And so again, all these situations feel different to different people and don't interpret them all the same way that you do, I do, Oscar Robertson does. So it's a slippery slope.
Even in that situation, I think we all agree that he didn't deserve to die. And what Oscar Robertson
I don't think you can say we all agree on that.
He did.
Justifiably. Hold on. The Obama administration, Eric Holder, did an investigation, and they didn't come to that conclusion.
He morally did not deserve to die. Period, point blank. But what Oscar is saying is that as athletes, we are socially and morally responsible to speak out on the issues that affect us and the people we care about. So white athletes have the responsibility to learn about the people that they engage with, the people that they care about in their locker rooms, their friends. They have that responsibility to learn. They don't have the responsibility to do the same thing we do, but if you care about me as a teammate and as a person, you have the responsibility to say enough is enough sometimes and be morally responsible to say, you know what, we need to stop doing things in this fashion.
I don't know who deserves to die, but when you attack a police officer in his car, there's an expected result that's not going to result in a good thing. I mean, or in Charlotte, where people where people were.
Eric Holder in the Attorney General's office
Eric said he deserved to die.
No, he said the police's actions was justified. That's just factual.
So killing a kid is justified.
Look, man, if you put your hand on it, look. You got kids. Now, I'm telling you, if they put their hands on a policeman's gun...
But if you tell me about that, my son, we're going to have a problem regardless of the fact. If you tell me my son deserved to die because he may have made a mistake, he didn't deserve to die. We could have handled this in a different capacity.
Well, no one deserves to die.
Well, I will say this. Clearly, when the State Department came out and said that it was justified, okay, shoot him. do you have to kill him? And I think that's the issue. No, listen.
Listen, the question is, should white athletes stand with black athletes? And having been a white athlete, it's really, really hard, okay? Because there is no room for...
Why is it hard?
It's hard because I'm not black, so I can't fully grasp the black experience when I have.
So you don't have enough friends, and you don't have enough people you hang out with to.
Of course I can. Of course I can try and learn. Okay, but to be an activist, okay, to take a stance on something. Do I think that there are cops on a power trip? Sure, absolutely. I've been treated poorly by a cop on a power trip. On the other hand, there are some people that act terribly towards police officers when a cop hasn't done anything wrong. There are lots of issues. There's too many guns. There's not enough education. You name it. But the problem is that if you stand up and you support, if I don't support you, suddenly now there's something wrong with me morally. And
we got to end on this note. We got to end on this note. When you start hey, white people, come join us, and you evaluate our cause, you do the homework on us, and you stand up for what you believe in. Well, let's say a white person does that and then jumps to the conclusion, you know what, black people, the problem here is single parenthood. And I'm going to make my stand about single parenthood. Their morality may compel them to do that rather than get upset about Michael Brown or whatever the incident of the day is. And so you got to be willing to deal with all the ramifications of what you're asking for. And I don't think we're ready for that. I think we want them to stand up on things that we feel comfortable and good about and portray white people in a bad light. But if they stand up and say, you know what about what you're doing? Then we get very uncomfortable, call them racist, and then say, mind your own business, stay out of it. So Oscar Robertson, you got to be careful what you ask for. Welcome back. Seth joined us here for Last Call. The NFL Network just revealed its top 10 best players, and only 2 guys play on defense. Seth, are defensive players undervalued?
There's no doubt about it that is the case. And all you have to do is go back and look at the rules changes over the years, and that was kind of a foreshadowing of the fact that, that defensive players were going to be, devalued. You can also look at the salaries. I mean, all the top players are on the offensive side of the ball.
It's ridiculous, and it's changing the essence of football. Bring back Dick Butkus.